The planet Xylos was a symphony of blues and greens. Viewed from orbit, it resembled a gigantic swirling marble. 90% water, its dominant species, the Xylosians, had evolved into a civilization both deeply connected to and utterly terrified of the ocean. Their cities, colossal structures of bioluminescent coral and reinforced kelp, rose from the seabed like shimmering underwater metropolises, each a testament to their rigorous engineering and unwavering dedication to protocol. Xylosian society was meticulously ordered, a reflection of their military-based hierarchy. Every aspect of their lives, from nutrient-paced consumption schedules to synchronized swimming formations, was governed by an intricate web of regulations. Deviation was not merely frowned upon. It was a punishable offense that could result in anything from community service involving algae scrubbing to temporary gill plate removal. It was into this world of aquatic order that Dave arrived, quite literally. His spacecraft, a battered and frankly rather embarrassing-looking escape pod that had seen better decades, crash-landed unceremoniously in the central plaza of Xylos Prime, the capital city. The impact sent a plume of seawater erupting into the air, scattering several high-ranking officials who were in the middle of a precisely choreographed flag-raising ceremony. Dave emerged from the wreckage, rubbing the back of his head. He was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, cargo shorts, and flip-flops, attire that clashed spectacularly with the Xylosians' sleek, bioengineered armor. "Huh," Dave mumbled, squinting at the towering coral structures. "Didn't think I'd make it. Anyone got a towel?" The Xylosians naturally did not have towels readily available, or any readily available at all. They stared at Dave with a mixture of shock and thinly veiled disgust. Their multifaceted eyes, usually trained on maintaining perfect formation, were now fixed on this anomaly. The highest-ranking officer present, a formidable Xylosian named Commander Krill, adjusted his ceremonial barnacle epaulets and swam forward, his movements precise and deliberate. "Identify yourself, intruder," he demanded, his voice a series of guttural clicks and whistles translated into somewhat stilted English by his implanted translator. Dave blinked. "Name's Dave. Where am I? Is there a spaceport nearby?" My GPS went a little haywire. Commander Krill's bioluminescent markings pulsed with irritation. "You have breached the sanctity of Xylos Prime. You will state your purpose immediately or face the consequences." Dave shrugged, seemingly unfazed by the threat. He pulled a crumpled pack of space cigarettes from his cargo shorts and lit one. The smoke billowed around him, further polluting the pristine aquatic environment. "Purpose?" Dave took a drag, exhaling a cloud of smoke rings. "Just passing through, really. Thought I'd see the sights. Though I gotta say, this place could use a bit more color. Everything's so blue." The Xylosians gasped. Such blatant disregard for protocol, such casual disrespect for their meticulously crafted environment, was unheard of. Commander Krill's gill plates flared. "You are in violation of 17 Galactic Concordance Articles, 42 Xylosian decrees, and I suspect several hygiene regulations. Seize him." Two heavily armored Xylosian guards moved to apprehend Dave, their energy nets crackling with menacing blue light. Dave, however, seemed less than concerned. He flicked his cigarette butt into a passing school of shimmering, genetically modified fish. "Hey, careful with those nets, guys," he said with a disarming grin. "Wouldn't want to snag my good shirt." The guards paused, momentarily bewildered by his lack of resistance and the sheer absurdity of his statement. This, they realized with growing unease, was going to be a very long day. The carefully structured world of Xylos was about to be turned upside down by a man in a Hawaiian shirt and an apparent allergy to taking anything seriously. The initial interrogation did not go well. Commander Krill, a being of unwavering discipline, attempted to ascertain Dave's origins, his purpose, and his intentions using the standard Xylosian method, a series of increasingly complex bureaucratic forms delivered via bioluminescent crustaceans. Dave, however, treated the crustaceans like miniature pets, attempting to teach them card tricks and offering them bits of his nutrient-paced rations. "Look, little guy," Dave said, holding a crustacean aloft. "Pick a card, any card, Wait, do you guys even have cards or hands? Never mind. Commander Krill watched, his multifaceted eyes twitching. The crustaceans, normally stoic messengers of the Xylosian bureaucracy, seemed strangely fascinated by Dave. One even nipped playfully at his finger. The forms, human. Complete them. Your cooperation will expedite your departure. Dave squinted at the forms, which were written in an elaborate swirling script that resembled underwater calligraphy. Departure? You mean, like a vacation? Because this place is growing on me. Though seriously, the humidity is killer. He attempted to fill out the forms, but his answers were less than helpful. To the question, planetary origin, he wrote, Earth, duh. To purpose of visit, he scribbled, to boldly go where no tourist has gone before. Maybe. And to known associates, he simply wrote, my mom. She makes great cookies. Commander Krill sighed, a sound like escaping steam. This human was either incredibly stupid or deliberately obtuse, or perhaps both. The thought was deeply unsettling. The cultural misunderstandings continued to escalate. The Xylosians, for instance, communicated through a complex system of bioluminescent signals and precisely timed fin movements. Dave, on the other hand, communicated through a series of loud, often inappropriate jokes and exaggerated gestures. During a formal dinner, held in Dave's honor, more accurately to keep an eye on him, Dave mistook the ceremonial kelp wine for soup and drank it straight from the bowl, earning gasps of horror from the assembled dignitaries. He then proceeded to compliment the chef on the interesting seaweed broth, further cementing his reputation as a cultural barbarian. So, Dave said, leaning back in his chair with a satisfied burp. Anyone got any, ketchup? This stuff could really use a little kick. The Xylosians exchanged uneasy glances. Ketchup? What barbaric condiment was this? Commander Krill, his patience wearing thin, decided to steer the conversation towards more serious matters. Human Dave, he said, his voice regaining its usual authoritative tone. We understand you possess unique technological capabilities. Dave raised an eyebrow. Unique? You mean like, can I open a beer bottle with my eye socket unique? Because yeah, I can do that. Commander Krill ignored the blatant absurdity of the statement. We are aware that you originate from a planet with advanced engineering prowess. We require your assistance. Dave perked up. Assistance? With what? Building a giant robot? Colonizing another planet? Because I'm totally on board with that, as long as there are snacks involved. Commander Krill hesitated. He was about to reveal the most closely guarded secret of Xylos, the one thing that defined their civilization and justified their rigid existence. But something about Dave's casual demeanor and complete lack of understanding made him deeply uneasy. We will show you, he said finally, his voice a low rumble. But you must swear to uphold the sanctity of our treasure. Dave grinned. Treasure, huh? Is it gold? Jewels? Because I'm a sucker for shiny things. Commander Krill led Dave through a series of winding corridors, each lined with heavily armed guards and intricate security systems. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, they arrived at a massive chamber, its entrance sealed by a pulsating energy field. Behold, Commander Krill announced, his voice filled with reverence. The sacred humidifier, the lifeblood of Xylos. The energy field dissipated, revealing a colossal machine, humming and sputtering, dominating the chamber. It was a chaotic mess of wires, pipes, and oddly shaped components, seemingly held together by sheer willpower and copious amounts of duct tape. The air around it was thick with steam and the faint smell of burning toast. Dave stared at the machine, his face a mask of disbelief. You're kidding, right? He said finally, his voice barely a whisper. That's just a really big toaster. The Xylosians gasped. The sanctity of their most prized possession had been defiled. The fate of their civilization hung in the balance, all because of a Hawaiian shirted human and his unfortunate encounter with a malfunctioning escape pod. and the smell of burning toast was getting stronger. The planet Xylos hummed with a low, resonant frequency, a constant thrum that vibrated through everything, the obsidian towers that scraped the perpetually twilight sky, the polished metallic walkways, even the chitinous exoskeletons of the Cathar themselves. It was a world ruled by logic, precision, and unwavering adherence to protocol. A single deviation could trigger societal collapse, or at least, that's what the Cathar believed. The Cathar were a species defined by their strict militaristic structure and almost pathological need for order. Imagine, if you will, a race of highly intelligent bipedal crustaceans, each member functioning as a cog in a vast, complex machine. Their lives were regimented from the moment their larval forms hatched to the moment their exoskeletons finally gave way to the Xylosian elements. Every decision was calculated, every action scrutinized, every potential outcome rigorously analyzed. Emotions were considered a dangerous variable, a flaw in the otherwise perfect equation of their society. And then Jen walked in. Not literally walked in, of course. That would imply a level of decorum completely foreign to her nature. More accurately, she appeared, shimmering into existence in the middle of the Grand Plaza, a sprawling expanse of polished metal usually reserved for military parades and mandatory efficiency drills. One moment, there was only the rhythmic stomp of 1,000 Cathar soldiers. The next, there was Jen, looking supremely unimpressed. She blinked, adjusted the strap of her decidedly non-regulation tank top, and surveyed her surroundings with an expression that could only be described as mildly curious. "Huh," she muttered, loud enough to be picked up by the Cathar's incredibly sensitive auditory receptors. Definitely not Kansas. Her attire alone was enough to send ripples of consternation through the ranks of the observing Cathar. Her tank top was faded, displaying a logo for a band no one recognized, and her denim shorts were ripped in a way that suggested carelessness rather than strategic battle damage. Even her posture was offensive, a casual slouch that screamed disrespect for the rigid hierarchies of Xylosian society, but it was the way she had arrived that truly horrified them. She hadn't used a designated portal, hadn't filed the proper arrival forms, Form 783 Alpha, subsection Gamma 9, revised edition, hadn't even bothered to exist in the proper dimension moments before. She had simply appeared, as if reality itself was merely a suggestion, a guideline to be casually ignored. Commander Grolak, a particularly high-ranking Cathar known for his unwavering adherence to regulations and his impressive collection of decorative barnacles, was the first to react. His mandibles clicked in agitation, a sound that echoed across the plaza. "Identify yourself, intruder," he commanded, his voice a guttural rasp amplified by his vocal modulator. "State your purpose and explain your unauthorized arrival." Jen blinked again, focusing her attention on Grolak. Hi," she said, her tone utterly devoid of the fear or respect Grolak expected. "Name's Jen, and, I think I took a wrong turn. Somewhere. There was this void thingy, and, well, here I am." "A void thingy?" Grolak exchanged a bewildered glance with his second-in-command, a smaller, equally rigid Cathar named Flubnar. The dimensional voids were theoretical impossibilities, tears in the fabric of space-time that existed only in advanced physics simulations. No sentient being, let alone a human, could simply take a wrong turn into one. "Impossible?" Flobnar hissed, his eye stalks twitching. "The voids are unstable, inherently destructive. No organic life form could survive passage through such a phenomenon." Jen shrugged. "Well, I did. So, maybe your simulations are a little off?" She grinned, a disarmingly casual expression that sent another wave of unease through the assembled Cathar. "Besides," she added, pulling a crumpled energy bar from her pocket, "I had snacks." The Cathar stared, utterly baffled. This human had not only violated the fundamental laws of physics, but she was also snacking in the middle of the Grand Plaza, a clear violation of Regulation 42 Beta, subsection Omega 12, regarding the consumption of non-regulation sustenance in designated public areas. It was clear to Grolak that this situation required immediate, decisive action. This Gen represented a threat to everything the Cathar held sacred: order, logic, and the unwavering belief in the inherent superiority of their own meticulously crafted reality. "Seize her," Grolak commanded, his voice resonating across the plaza. "Bring her before the Grand Tribunal. She will be held accountable for her transgressions against the laws of Xylos." As the Cathar soldiers advanced, their metallic claws clicking on the polished surface, Jen sighed. "Great," she muttered. "Just my luck. I always end up in court." The Grand Tribunal chamber was the embodiment of Cathar authority. A vast echoing space carved from the living rock of Xylos, it exuded an aura of ancient power and unwavering judgment. Tiered platforms rose towards a central dais, upon which sat the tribunal itself. 3 ancient Cathar, their exoskeletons adorned with intricate carvings that signified centuries of service and unwavering devotion to the laws of Xylos. The air in the chamber thrummed with a low, almost palpable sense of expectation. Hundreds of Cathar officials, scientists, and military officers stood rigidly at attention, their eye stalks fixed upon the central dais. The only sound was the rhythmic clicking of their mandibles, a constant, unsettling chorus that underscored the gravity of the proceedings. Jen, escorted by a squad of heavily armed Cathar soldiers, was led to a small, uncomfortable-looking platform at the center of the chamber. She glanced around, her expression a mixture of boredom and mild curiosity. "So," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "This is it, huh? Looks like something out of a bad sci-fi movie." The tribunal remained impassive, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the cold, artificial light of the chamber. The central figure, designated First Arbiter, finally spoke, his voice a deep, resonant drone that seemed to vibrate the very bones. "Human," he intoned. "You stand accused of violating the fundamental laws of physics, of traversing the forbidden voids, and of disrupting the established order of Xylos. How do you plead?" Jen shrugged, leaning against the restraining bar with a casualness that bordered on sacrilege. "Plead? Not guilty? I mean, I didn't mean to break any laws. I just kinda fell in. And besides," she added with a mischievous glint in her eye, "what's the point of having laws if you can't break them a little?" The First Arbiter's mandibles clicked in what could only be interpreted as displeasure. "Ignorance is no excuse," he stated flatly. "The voids are governed by immutable laws that your very existence has defied. Explain yourself, human. How did you survive the impossible?" Jen sighed dramatically. "Okay, look," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's not exactly rocket science. I was just, walking along, minding my own business, when I saw this weird, sparkly thing. Figured I'd check it out. Next thing I know, whoosh, here I am chatting with a bunch of fancy crustaceans." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembled Cathar. "Sparkly thing?" Flobnar hissed from the sidelines. "Is that all you have to offer? A sparkly thing explanation for defying the very fabric of reality?" Jen grinned. "Hey, don't blame me, I'm just a simple girl. Maybe your fabric of reality needs a little ironing, huh?" She punctuated her statement with a wink, an action that seemed to short-circuit several nearby Cathar officials. The First Arbiter raised a claw, silencing the growing uproar. "Enough," he commanded. "Human, your flippant attitude will not sway our judgment. We have consulted the great algorithms, analyzed your anomalous energy signature, and reviewed countless simulations. The conclusion is undeniable. Your arrival is an impossibility, a paradox that threatens the very foundation of our understanding." "So what? You're gonna, execute me for being a walking paradox?" Jen asked, her voice laced with sarcasm. "That seems a little harsh, even for you guys." The First Arbiter paused, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. "Your fate," he declared, "will be determined by the Council of Science. They will analyze you, dissect your methods, and attempt to understand the nature of your transgression. Only Then will we decide whether you are a threat to Xylos or merely an inconvenience? Jen shuddered. Dissect me? No thanks. I've seen enough alien autopsy movies to know how that ends. Can't I just, fill out some paperwork and go home? Her request was met with stony silence. The Cathar soldiers tightened their grip on her arms, their metallic claws digging into her skin. Take her away, the first arbiter commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. Let the examination begin. As Jen was dragged away, protesting loudly, she couldn't help but wonder what she had gotten herself into. A sparkly thing, she thought. Maybe I should have just stayed home and watched TV. The examination, thankfully, didn't involve any actual dissection. Instead, Jen found herself in a sterile laboratory, surrounded by Cathar scientists in white lab coats, all of whom seemed to regard her with a mixture of fascination and disgust. The first few days were a blur of scans, probes, and utterly incomprehensible questions about quantum entanglement and the nature of subjective reality. The silence was broken by a high-pitched whine from one of the younger Xylosians. Then another. Soon the entire chamber was filled with the sound of Xylosians short-circuiting, their equivalent of hysterical laughter. The truth was too much to bear. Their world, as they knew it, had just been buttered, toasted, and served. The revelation hit Xylos like a tidal wave of lukewarm kelp. Cultural chaos erupted. Some Xylosians went into full existential meltdown, questioning the very fabric of their reality. Others clung desperately to the old ways, insisting that Dave was a heretic sent to test their faith in the great humidifier. Or, toaster. Amidst the pandemonium, Dave, ever the pragmatist, decided to demonstrate the toaster's true potential. He rummaged through his bag and pulled out a jar of peanut butter and a tube of something vaguely resembling jelly. With a flourish, he spread the concoctions on a slice of toast and took a bite. See, he said, munching contentedly. Breakfast of champions. Or, breakfast of intergalactic travelers who accidentally stumble upon ancient alien civilizations. He offered a slice to a nearby Xylosian who recoiled in horror. Curiosity, however, eventually overcame ingrained fear. One brave, or perhaps utterly bewildered, Xylosian cautiously extended a tentacle and poked at the toast. Then, with a deep breath, he took a nibble. His bioluminescent markings pulsed with a surprised and not entirely unpleasant glow. Soon, other Xylosians were tentatively trying the toast. The initial reactions ranged from disgust to confusion to, finally, a dawning sense of satisfaction. It wasn't the divine sustenance they had been led to believe in, but it was pleasant. It was edible. And, dare they say it, kind of good. The Xylosians, being the procedural creatures they were, immediately began experimenting. They tried different thicknesses of bread, different levels of toasting, different toppings. They discovered the joys of butter, jam, and even, after some initial hesitation, the oddly compelling combination of peanut butter and jelly. The bow, toaster, once a symbol of ancient mystery and revered technology, was now just a toaster, a tool for making delicious golden brown slices of stuff. And the Xylosians, after generations of rigid tradition, were finally learning to appreciate the simple pleasures of life, or at least the simple pleasure of toast. The air on Xylos, once thick with the scent of ozone and existential dread, now carried the comforting aroma of toasted bread. Years passed on Xylos. The initial chaos subsided, replaced by a society fundamentally altered by Dave's visit and the revelation of the sacred humidifier. The Xylosians, once obsessed with maintaining a malfunctioning toaster, now faced a profound question. What do you do when your entire belief system is based on a lie, or, at least, a massive misunderstanding? The answer, surprisingly, was toast. They embraced it. They celebrated it. They even started worshiping it. New religions sprang up, each with its own interpretation of the toaster god and its golden brown commandments. The Church of Crispy Crust advocated for well-done toast, while the Fellowship of the Slightly Burnt argued for a more nuanced approach to toasting. Dave, meanwhile, had long since departed Xylos, hitching a ride on a passing freighter, leaving behind a planet transformed by his accidental intervention. He never quite understood the fuss, but he did enjoy the occasional postcard from Xylos, usually depicting elaborate toast sculptures or Xylosian children dressed as slices of bread. He'd chuckle, shake his head, and file them away with the rest of his intergalactic oddities. To him it was just a toaster, a simple kitchen appliance. But to the Xylosians, it was a symbol of a new beginning, a reminder that even the most sacred traditions can be surprisingly toasty. And so Xylos entered a new era, the age of toast. They developed advanced toasting technologies, crafted elegant toast racks, and even wrote epic poems about the history of bread. Their military, once focused on defending the sacred humidifier, now specialized in toast-based warfare, launching volleys of perfectly toasted projectiles at their enemies. Dave, some